August 11, 1942. A patent clerk in Washington, D.C. stamps document number 2002-292-387. The title reads, Secret Communication System. The inventors listed, Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil. The invention, a frequency-hopping spread-spectrum technology that would make torpedoes impossible to jam, a technology that could win the war, a technology that 70 years later would become the foundation of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. The patent clerk files it away. Standard procedure. But this wasn't standard, because one of those inventors was Hedy Lamarr, the most beautiful woman in the world, according to every magazine in America, a Hollywood star, box office gold. And that's exactly why nobody took her seriously. When she brought her invention to the US Navy, they didn't test it. They didn't even consider it. An admiral looked at this brilliant scientist and told her she'd be more useful selling war bonds. "You'd be better off using your celebrity to help the war effort," he said. "Let the men handle the engineering." So the patent sat, filed away, forgotten, while Hedy returned to Hollywood to be photographed, admired, and called just a pretty face. The Navy didn't use her invention during World War II. They didn't use it during the Korean War either. It wasn't until 1962, 20 years after she invented it, that the US military secretly implemented her technology during the Cuban Missile Crisis. They never told her, never paid her, never said thank you. By the time her invention became the backbone of modern wireless communication, Hedy Lamarr was nearly forgotten, living alone in Florida, declining interviews, refusing to be photographed. The world had moved on from the beauty queen, and it never knew she was a genius. But to understand how we got here, how one of the most important inventors of the 20th century was erased, we need to go back to the beginning, to Vienna, 1914, to a girl who would change everything. She was born Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler on November 9, 1914 in Vienna, Austria. Her father, Emil, was a bank director, successful, secular Jewish, and unlike most men of his time, he believed his daughter's mind was worth developing. Every evening he'd take young Hedwig on walks through Vienna, but these weren't ordinary strolls. Emil would explain how things worked: streetcars, printing presses, the mechanics of elevators. "He made me understand that I must look into the inside of things," Hedy would later say. While other girls were taught needlepoint and manners, Hedwig was taking apart music boxes to see how the cylinders created sound. She was sketching improvements to traffic signals. She was obsessed with how things worked. At 4 years old, she disassembled her music box completely. Her mother was horrified. It was expensive, imported, a family treasure. But Hedwig put it back together perfectly and made it play faster. Her mother didn't know whether to punish her or be proud. Her father chose pride. By 16, Hedwig was stunningly beautiful, the kind of beautiful that made people stop talking when she entered a room. Dark eyes, porcelain skin, features so symmetrical they looked sculpted. But beauty to her was the least interesting thing about her. She enrolled in engineering school. She studied communications technology, a brand new field. She was one of the only women in her classes, and easily the only one who looked like her. The other students stared. The professors didn't know what to do with her. She dropped out after 1 year. Not because she couldn't handle it, but because she'd discovered something that paid better: film. In 1933, at 18 years old, she starred in a Czechoslovakian film called Ecstasy. It featured the first non-pornographic nude scene and simulated orgasm in cinema history. It made her internationally famous overnight, and internationally infamous. The Vatican condemned it. Hitler banned it. Her father was humiliated. And Friedrich Mandl noticed. Mandl was one of the richest men in Austria, an arms manufacturer who sold weapons to Mussolini and Hitler, controlling, jealous, fascist adjacent. He saw ecstasy. He became obsessed. He pursued Hedwig relentlessly. Flowers, gifts, dinner invitations she couldn't refuse without consequences. In 1933, at 19 years old, she married him. Not out of love, out of pressure, out of a sense that she had no other option. It was a beautiful prison. Mandel locked her away in his castle. He tried to buy every copy of ecstasy to destroy them, spending a fortune. He forbade her from acting, from leaving without his permission, from speaking to other men. But he couldn't stop her from listening. Mandel hosted dinners for military officials, engineers, weapons designers, meetings about guidance systems for missiles, torpedoes, radio-controlled munitions. Hedwig was expected to sit there, look beautiful, and stay silent. So she did, but she absorbed everything. She learned about radio frequencies, about jamming systems that rendered torpedoes useless, about the arms race happening in secret across Europe. And she started thinking, what if you could make a signal impossible to jam? Mandel never suspected the quiet, obedient wife at the end of the table was reverse engineering military technology in her head. In 1937, she'd had enough. She drugged her maid, stole her uniform, and escaped during one of Mandel's dinner parties. She fled to London with nothing. No money, no papers, just her mind and her face. In London, she met Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM, the most powerful studio in Hollywood. He offered her a contract, $125 a week. She said no, too low. Mayer boarded a ship to New York. So did she. For the entire transatlantic voyage, she accidentally appeared wherever he was, charming, brilliant, speaking perfect English, French, and German. By the time they docked, Mayer offered her $500 a week. She said yes. But she had one condition, a new name. Hedwig Kiesler, the arms dealer's escaped wife, died on that ship. Hedy Lamarr was born. The name was inspired by Barbara Lamarr, a silent film star known as the girl who was too beautiful. It was a label Hedy would spend the rest of her life trying to escape. Hollywood, 1940. Hedy Lamarr was a star. She'd appeared in Algiers opposite Charles Boyer, a hit. She was under contract with MGM. Her face sold magazines. But while America saw her as a glamorous actress, Hedy saw herself as something else, an inventor trapped in a beautiful woman's body. At night, while other stars attended parties, Hedy worked in a room she'd converted into a laboratory, drafting table, reference books on engineering, sketches covering the walls. She designed improvements to traffic lights, a tablet that dissolved in water to create a carbonated drink, a precursor to Alka-Seltzer, a new type of tissue box. But these were distractions. What obsessed her was the war. By 1940, Europe was burning. Her homeland was under Nazi control. Every day brought news of U-boats sinking Allied ships, torpedoes destroying supply lines. And Hedy knew something most people didn't. Torpedoes could be radio-controlled, but they were easy to jam. If the enemy detected the radio signal controlling the torpedo, they could jam the frequency and render it useless. The torpedo would veer off course or simply stop. The problem was simple. One frequency, one signal, easy to find, easy to block. Hedy started thinking, what if the signal didn't stay on one frequency? What if it jumped? Frequency hopping, a signal that switches between dozens of frequencies in a pattern known only to the sender and receiver. Impossible to jam, because by the time you find it, it's already moved. She had the concept, but she didn't know how to build it. She needed an engineer, someone who understood synchronization, timing, mechanics. And then, at a dinner party in 1940, she met George Antheil. Antheil was a composer, avant-garde, famous for a piece called Ballet Mécanique, which used 16 synchronized player pianos. 16 pianos, playing in perfect synchronization. Hedy saw it immediately. That's the mechanism. She approached him at the party. Antheil later said he thought she wanted to discuss her glandular problems. She'd been asking people about breast enlargement. Instead, she said, "I want to invent a torpedo guidance system." He blinked. She explained, frequency hopping, 88 frequencies, synchronized between the torpedo and the control ship. Why 88? Because that's how many keys are on a piano. Antheil understood immediately. Player pianos used rolls of paper with holes punched in them, a physical mechanical code, impossible to hack. "We use piano rolls," he said. "One in the torpedo, one in the transmitter. Identical, synchronized, the holes determine which frequency to use at which moment." Hedy smiled. They spent the next 6 months working together. Hedy handled the engineering concepts, frequency selection, signal strength, torpedo mechanics. Antheil handled the synchronization, how to make two machines miles apart, switch frequencies in perfect unison. They built models on Hedy's dining room table. They filed pages of calculations. They argued over technical details late into the night, while Hedy's husband, her second actor Gene Markey, slept upstairs, completely unaware his wife was inventing the future of wireless communication. By December 1940, they had it. A secret communication system, 88 frequencies, unjammable, unhackable. On June 10, 1941, Hedy and George submitted their patent application. On August 11, 1942, U.S. Patent 2002-92-387 was approved. The patent didn't list Hedy Lamarr. It listed her married name, Hedy Lamarr. Still, it was official. She was an inventor. Now they just needed someone to use it. They sent the patent to the National Inventors Council, a group established to evaluate civilian inventions for military use. The council loved it. They forwarded it to the U.S. Navy. And that's when everything fell apart. The Navy received the patent in late 1942. They read it. They understood it. Some engineers were genuinely impressed. But then someone asked the question that would doom the project. Wait, Hedy Lamarr, like Hedy Lamarr, the actress? Suddenly it wasn't an invention anymore. It was a publicity stunt. A gorgeous movie star thinks she can do engineering. Adorable, ridiculous, impossible. Never mind that the patent was technically sound. Never mind that George Antheil had credentials. Never mind that frequency hopping was genuinely revolutionary. She was a woman. Worse, she was a beautiful woman. And beautiful women in 1942 were not taken seriously. The Navy's official response was polite but dismissive. They claimed the apparatus would be too bulky to fit inside a torpedo. This was absurd. The player piano mechanism they proposed was compact. Antheil had already designed miniaturized versions. But the Navy didn't ask for revisions, didn't request a prototype, didn't test it. They just filed it away. Instead, they invited Hedy to tour the country selling war bonds. "You'd do more for the war effort using your star power," they told her. So she did. She sold $25 million worth of war bonds, about $400 million in today's money. She kissed soldiers for donations. She smiled for photographs. She played the role they wanted, the beautiful, patriotic actress. Not the inventor. The patent sat in a filing cabinet, untouched, gathering dust. And then, in the late 1950s, something changed. The Cold War was escalating. The U.S. military needed secure communication systems, unhackable, unjammable. Engineers at the military contractor Sylvania stumbled across patent 2002-92-387. They read it. They realized it was exactly what they needed. But here's the thing. The patent had expired. Hedy and George had been granted the patent in 1942, but patents only last 17 years. By 1959, it had entered the public domain. Anyone could use it. No permission needed, no payment required. Sylvania took the frequency hopping design, updated it with modern electronics, replacing piano rolls with electronic circuits, and implemented it. In 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. Navy used frequency hopping technology to secure communications on ships blockading Cuba. It worked flawlessly. Hedy Lamarr, sitting in Los Angeles, aging out of Hollywood roles, had no idea her invention was being used. Nobody told her. Nobody paid her. Nobody even said thank you. Over the next 2 decades, frequency hopping became standard in military technology. Sonobuoys, satellite communications, encrypted radio, all based on her invention, all without her knowledge. Meanwhile, Hedy's career was fading. By the 1950s, Hollywood had moved on. She was in her 40s, ancient by actress standards, roles dried up. She tried producing, tried writing, nothing stuck. She went through 6 marriages, multiple plastic surgeries trying to hold on to the beauty that had defined her. In 1966, she was arrested for shoplifting. The press had a field day. Hedy Lamarr, former screen goddess, caught stealing $21 in merchandise. The woman who invented the technology that would one day power billions of dollars in devices was stealing lipstick and eye drops. She became a recluse, moved to Florida, stopped appearing in public, stopped giving interviews. She had no idea that in laboratories and universities, engineers were building on her work. In the 1980s, frequency hopping became the basis for cellular phone networks. In the 1990s, it became the foundation for Wi-Fi. In the 2000s, Bluetooth. Every smartphone, every laptop, every wireless device, all using the principles Hedy Lamarr invented in 1942. And still nobody told her. Parte 02, Continuação. It wasn't until 1997, 55 years after she filed the patent, that anyone acknowledged what Hedy Lamarr had done. The Electronic Frontier Foundation gave her a special award. They called her a pioneer of wireless communication. She was 82 years old. She didn't attend the ceremony. She refused to be seen. Age and surgery had changed her face, and she couldn't bear to be photographed as anything other than the beauty she once was. Instead, she accepted by phone. "It's about time," she said. Her voice was soft, gracious, but you could hear it underneath, the bitterness of 5 decades spent invisible. The award came with no money, no apology, just recognition from an organization most people had never heard of. The US Navy never apologized. The companies making billions from her technology never paid her a cent. But word started to spread. Engineers began talking. Articles appeared in tech magazines. The internet, itself built on protocols descended from her work, discovered her story. Did you know Hedy Lamarr invented Wi-Fi? It became a viral factoid, a fun piece of trivia, the kind of thing people share and forget. But it wasn't trivia to Hedy. In 1998, she gave one of her last interviews. The journalist asked if she was bitter about being ignored for so long. She paused. "No," she said, "I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because it needed to be done." Then she added quietly, "But it would have been nice to be asked." On January 19, 2000, Hedy Lamarr died in her home in Castleberry, Florida. She was 85 years old, alone, nearly blind, estranged from her children. The obituaries led with her Hollywood career. Screen siren of the 1940s, the most beautiful woman in the world. Some mentioned, in passing, that she was also an inventor. Most didn't. But here's what they should have said. Hedy Lamarr invented the technology that powers the modern world. Every time you connect to Wi-Fi, you're using her invention. Every time you pair Bluetooth headphones, you're using her invention. Every time your phone switches cell towers without dropping the call, you're using her invention. Every military drone, every GPS satellite, every secure communication system. Frequency hopping. The idea she sketched on her dining room table in 1940, while Hollywood called her just a pretty face. Let's talk about the scale of what she created. In 2024, there are approximately 5.3 billion smartphone users worldwide. Every single one of those devices uses frequency-hopping spread spectrum technology. The global Wi-Fi market alone is worth over $23 billion annually. Bluetooth devices, over $7 billion per year. GPS systems, $75 billion. Cell phone infrastructure, $1.6 trillion. And every single one of these industries, every dollar, every device, every connection, traces back to patent 2002-92-387. Filed by Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil. Approved August 11, 1942. Used without permission, without payment, without credit. Here's what that means in human terms. When you sit in a cafe and open your laptop, connecting instantly to Wi-Fi, you're using Hedy's invention. When you're driving and your phone seamlessly switches between cell towers, maintaining your core, you're using Hedy's invention. When a soldier in a combat zone sends an encrypted message that can't be intercepted, they're using Hedy's invention. When a surgeon uses a wireless medical device to save a life, they're using Hedy's invention. The technology she created has connected billions of people, has saved countless lives, has generated trillions of dollars. And she died alone, forgotten, with nothing. But let's be specific about who profited. In 1962, when the U.S. Navy first implemented frequency hopping during the Cuban Missile Crisis, they contracted with Sylvania Electronic Systems. Sylvania was paid millions, Hedy Lamarr was paid nothing. In the 1980s, when the military expanded frequency hopping to satellite communications, companies like Raytheon, Lockheed, and Hughes Aircraft secured billions in defense contracts. Hedy Lamarr received nothing. In 1997, when Wi-Fi was standardized using spread spectrum technology, the IEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, didn't mention her name in the official documentation. The companies that built Wi-Fi routers, Cisco, Linksys, Netgear, made fortunes. Hedy Lamarr received nothing. In 1999, when Bluetooth was released using frequency hopping to prevent interference, companies like Ericsson, Nokia, and Intel formed the Bluetooth Special Interest Group. They made billions. Hedy Lamarr received nothing. In the 2000s, when cellular networks adopted CDMA, Code Division Multiple Access, a direct descendant of frequency hopping, companies like Qualcomm generated over $100 billion in revenue. Hedy Lamarr received nothing. She never earned a single dollar from the invention that changed everything. And here's the cruelest part, she knew. By the 1990s, when engineers started crediting her, she understood what had been taken from her. She understood that she could have been wealthy, could have been remembered as one of the great inventors of the 20th century, could have been more than just a pretty face. In one of her final interviews, a reporter asked what she wanted to be remembered for. She didn't hesitate. "I don't want to be remembered at all," she said. "I want to be forgotten." But then she reconsidered. "Actually," she said, "I'd like to be remembered as someone who contributed something useful. Not as a beauty, not as a star. As someone useful." That's all she wanted. After her death, something shifted. The tech community adopted her as a symbol. Computer scientists told her story. Engineers named awards after her. In 2014, she was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, 72 years after filing her patent. Google celebrated her birthday with a Google Doodle in 2015. In 2017, the documentary Bombshell: The Hedy Lamarr Story won awards and brought her story to millions. Streets were named after her, scholarships established in her name, tech conferences opened with tributes. But here's the question: does posthumous recognition mean anything? Does it matter that we remember her now when we erased her then? Does it change the fact that she died alone, broke and bitter? Does it undo 55 years of invisibility? The answer is complicated. Because yes, it matters that we tell her story. It matters that young girls learn about her. It matters that engineers know her name. But it doesn't change what was done to her. It doesn't give her back the life she deserved. And here's what should terrify us: this still happens. In 2023, Katie Booman, the computer scientist whose algorithm created the first image of a black hole, was immediately dismissed online as just the face of the project. Men claimed credit. Trolls attacked her. Sound familiar? In 2021, Katalin Kariko, who spent decades perfecting mRNA technology, was finally recognized when COVID vaccines saved millions of lives. But for 30 years, she was denied funding, demoted, and told her work was worthless. She almost gave up. In 2020, Timnit Gebru, a leading AI ethics researcher, was fired from Google after challenging the company. Her work was groundbreaking. She was silenced anyway. In 2019, when Katie Booman's black hole image went viral, the top comment on Reddit was, "I bet she didn't even write the code." The top comment about Hedy Lamarr in 1942 was probably similar. "I bet she didn't even understand the patent." 77 years apart, same dismissal. This is the pattern. A woman creates something revolutionary. She's ignored, dismissed, or erased. Decades later, she's rediscovered. We celebrate her posthumously. We say, "Never again." And then it happens again. Because the problem isn't that we forgot Hedy Lamarr. The problem is why we forgot her. We forgot her because she was a woman in a field dominated by men. We forgot her because she was beautiful, and beautiful women aren't supposed to be smart. We forgot her because she was an actress, and actresses aren't supposed to be engineers. We forgot her because it was easier to see her as decoration than as a genius. And we're still doing it. Every time a woman's contribution is minimized, every time someone says she probably had help, every time credit is quietly redistributed to a man, we're repeating the same theft. Hedy Lamarr didn't just invent frequency hopping. She proved that genius doesn't look like what we expect. That brilliance can exist in someone the world only wants to admire. That a woman can be beautiful and brilliant, glamorous and scientific, an actress and an inventor. She proved that labels are prisons, and the world punished her for it. But here's what they couldn't take from her. The invention itself. Patent 292-387 exists. It's public record. Her name is on it. Every engineer who studies wireless communication learns about frequency hopping, and more they learn her name. Every phone in your pocket, every wireless connection, every secure signal, they're all monuments to her. Invisible monuments, but monuments nonetheless. And maybe that's enough. Not because she deserved to be forgotten, she didn't. Not because posthumous recognition is justice, it isn't. But because the invention itself is immortal. Long after Hollywood forgot her films, her technology connects the world. Long after the Navy dismissed her, militaries rely on her invention. Long after she died alone, billions of people use her genius every single day. Without knowing it, without thanking her, but using it. And maybe, that's the kind of immortality that matters. Not fame, not wealth, not credit, but impact. Hedy Lamarr changed the world. And every time you connect to Wi-Fi, you prove it. Every time you use Bluetooth, you prove it. Every time your phone works, you prove it. She's in every signal, every frequency, every connection. Invisible, forgotten by most. But there. Always there. So here's what I'm asking. The next time you connect to Wi-Fi without thinking about it, stop. Think about it. Think about the brilliant, beautiful, complicated woman who made it possible. Think about how she was dismissed, erased, stolen from. Think about how she died alone while the world used her genius. And remember her name. Not as a Hollywood star, not as the most beautiful woman in the world, but as Hedy Lamarr, inventor, the woman who connected the world and got nothing in return. Remember her, because she deserved better, and because this is still happening. And the only way it stops is if we refuse to forget. Hedy Lamarr, patent 2W2 August 11th, 1942. Frequency hopping spread spectrum. The foundation of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, cellular networks. One woman, one invention. Changed everything. Remember her name.